So tech giant TCL has just released a new mobile. Well, within the last few months at least anyway. Now, we've had TCL phones float across our desk in the past, and while none of them we've seen have really attempted to take on the current flagships, I do feel like TCL is slowly cementing themselves in the mid-range market, as their handsets not only look pretty decent and stylish, but are also extremely capable handsets when it comes to their performance. Now, I've just got my hands on the TCL 40R 5G, which was recently shown off at CES 2023, and I wanted to really just give it a bit of a test ride. So let's dive in. So starting round the back, as this is definitely the most interesting aspect of this phone, as there is an etched curved pattern that reminds me of some kind of astrophotography time-lapse. The phone comes in two colours, black or purple, of which we have the black one here, and I must say it does look pretty smart. The rear of the phone and casing is made from plastic, so it does feel extremely lightweight, though the etched pattern in the rear offers a decent level of grip compared to, say, something like a Samsung or iPhone that is housed in glass. Down one side you have your lock button, which doubles as a fingerprint scanner. It works well and opens up the phone almost instantaneously, but if fingerprint scanners aren't your thing, there is also facial recognition that you can rely on to get your phone unlocked. Above the lock button you have a volume rocker. The rim of the phone is matte in colour, and you've got a speaker grill on the bottom, as well as a USB Type-C charging port and what feels like an extremely rare headphone port for those users who like to use wireless headphones. The phone unfortunately is not waterproof because of this reason, so don't go swimming with it. The TCL 40R 5G sports a 6.6-inch IPS LCD screen that is actually pretty sharp and bright at 400 nits of brightness. It's a 20:9 aspect ratio with a resolution of 720x1618 with a contrast ratio of 1500:1. It's got a 90Hz max refresh rate, which can be turned down to 60Hz if you want to save some battery life, and it's also got a smart setting where it can auto-select the refresh rate depending on what you're doing with the phone, watching films or scrolling through Facebook or playing games. The 40R 5G also has access to TCL's NXT Vision software, which offers various settings to aid with image quality. It's split into three, being image, video and game enhancements, and all aid in increasing things like contrast ratio and sharpness, shadow detail and overall resolution. Within NXT Vision there is also a reading mode and an eye comfort mode to aid with minimalizing eye strain. And finally, a way of changing the color temperature of your display from warm, cool and a neutral white balance. The small notch at the very top of the screen, well, more of a teardrop style of notch that hides the selfie camera. It doesn't at all distract away from the screen, which is great. It is very unobtrusive and out of the way. So under the hood you've got a quad-core MediaTek Dimensity 700 CPU with two cores clocking in at 2.2 GHz and the rest at 2.0 GHz. This is backed up by 4 GB of RAM and 64 or 128 gig storage capacity, depending on which one you wanted to choose. Now you can also add an extra terabyte of storage using a micro SD card if needed, and you've also got inside an ARM G57 MC2 graphics chip driving its visuals. Running a Geekbench 5 benchmark test, the phone gave us a score of 541 on a single core and 1655 on a multi-core score, which pretty much puts it on par with the Xiaomi Poco X3, Oppo Reno 2 and the Samsung A22 5G, so a very mid-level performance, that's for sure. But saying that, if you're going to be using this phone to check your Facebook notifications or catch up on your Instagram feeds, this phone is just way more than capable. There was admittedly stutter when opening new apps for the first time, and coming from something like my Google Pixel 7 Pro as my daily driver, opening apps is a slower process, but not slow enough to not recommend this phone to someone who doesn't need all the bells and whistles of a flagship handset. Now, following on from this, we ran a 3D Mark test just to see what kind of gaming performance you could get from the device, and it gave us a score of 1206 with an average frame rate of 7.2 on its recommended wildlife test, which in all honesty isn't really that bad considering the benchmark test pushes the phone's resolution to a 1440p resolution. Now the phone is absolutely capable of playing something like Candy Crush or Clash of Clans if that's still a thing, but if you're going to be needing a phone for PUBG or Call of Duty Mobile, then you're going to have to be looking elsewhere for a more powerful handset. And for comparison, similar phones with similar scores are the Huawei Honor X9 5G and Motorola Moto G71 5G. The TCL 40R 5G is running Android 12 with a TCL UI 4.0 skin, which isn't a bad experience really at all. From first glance, it's pretty close to a stock Android experience. However, in TCL fashion, there is some bloatware that comes with the phone, but I must say not a huge amount. There's an optimization app that frees up memory usage, a support center that allows users to submit feedback and troubleshoot issues and check on the health of components like your battery life, for example, and finally a heart rate monitor and pedometer for tracking steps. So not much in my opinion, and certainly so much better than other Eastern mobile phone manufacturers. There are a few customization options that help with phone personalization, like widgets and backgrounds, if you want buttons or gesture controls to navigate Android, or even the layout of settings in your notification panel. All pretty much standard things now with Android, and nothing's really stood out as being bad. It's a nice experience using TCL UI 4.0. What is good though is that the main menu is split up into categories, which is a nice touch. You can find things like communication, which houses the Facebook app, your contacts, your messages, and media, where you can find things like your camera, gallery, music, TikTok, and other media related apps. Oh, TikTok does come pre-installed on this phone, by the way. Now, categorizing your menu this way makes it so much easier to find what you are looking for, as opposed to endlessly scrolling through your list of installed apps. Moving between apps is a pretty smooth experience, and I never really experienced any kind of lag or stutter. The only thing that really did stand out to me was the speed of the boot up time when my phone battery actually died once. It's nowhere near as fast as a flagship handset, which is understandable, but it did take a tad too long, and it was enough for me to make a comment about it anyway. Now inside is a 5000 milliamp battery, which is more than enough for a full day's use given the phone's resolution and refresh rate. In the box you do get a 15-watt charger and a USB Type-C cable, which is alright. Not really on par with some of the fast chargers that come with handsets now, but it will take a couple of hours or so to go from empty to full, so it's really not that bad. The cable though is incredibly short, like so short running it from the floor where an extension plug may be to your bedside table could be a bit of a stretch. I would have liked to have seen a longer cable, maybe a 1.8 meter cable or something like that inside of the box. With the battery though, it also comes with a feature called intelligent charging, which is designed to charge your phone slowly overnight so it hits 100% by the time you wake up in the morning. Now this has been designed to extend the life of your mobile phone battery and reduces overcharging as well. Around the back are 3 separate snappers housed neatly in the top left hand side of the rear panel. Now the housing is raised, and there was a bit of fear that the lenses could get scratched if laying it down on the incorrect surface. The top main camera has a 50 megapixel sensor with an f1.8 aperture. It's classed as a wide angle lens, there's no ultra wide here, and to be honest the photos shot from this lens aren't that bad at all. I've definitely seen a lot worse on mid-range handsets in the past. The second is a 2 megapixel macro sensor with an f2.4 aperture, and the third is a 2 megapixel f2.4 depth sensor. Taking photos with the 50 megapixel camera offers a decent quality image and one that's not too overprocessed. Colors are decent, though are a little muted compared to the processed photos you tend to find on higher end handsets, but this isn't really a bad thing, and if editing your photos is your thing, then there's room for a little more saturation added in later. Features inside the camera app include your standard auto mode. You've got a video mode that shoots at 1080p at a maximum of 30 frames per second. There's no 60 or 120 FPS here for slow-mo either, and there's not even a slow motion mode to take advantage of. There is a portrait mode that takes advantage of that wide aperture and produces shallow depth of field photos, and finally a pro mode and a panoramic mode. Inside of the pro mode you have access to your ISO levels, your shutter speed, your white balance, and your manual focus option, that kind of thing. As I said, the photos taken from the device aren't bad. They're not super detailed, though the phone does produce sharp images, and they're certainly passable if you're wanting to add them to your Instagram feeds. And in controlled lighting conditions you can get a pretty decent sharp images from the camera. The colors look pretty good on a phone screen, which follows through to your social media posts as well, so there's that. There is a feature that takes advantage of HDR in both video and photos, which aims to reduce those blown out highlights and increase those dark shadowy areas. However, when it comes to close-up macro shots, the camera did leave me wanting a lot more, especially as I'm very much used to my Google Pixel 7 Pro now. The photos produced again aren't really too bad, but you're not going to be winning any kind of photography awards for your macro photography with this phone. Focusing distance also leaves a lot to be desired, and rather than calling it macro mode, I'd call it the ability to shoot images close up. The selfie cam has an 8 megapixel sensor with an f2.0 aperture and can also film at 1080p at 30 FPS. It did quite a good job with the background separation on my selfie image, so I was quite impressed with the result. This is done through facial recognition software built into the camera itself, which sticks this box around faces. It's like a face detection thing, so it can produce clearer images. However, whether it's to do with TCL's post-image processing, colors felt a little muted compared to how they actually are in the world. Now, I've added a similar selfie to this video taken with a Google Pixel 7 Pro, and I must say, when it comes to subjection sharpness, especially if you're viewing them on social media feeds or on this video or websites, it's pretty negligible. I'm actually impressed with the selfie camera here. So overall, the TCL 40R 5G is quite an impressive mid-tier mobile phone that has some pretty decent performance where it counts. Sure, you're not going to be playing the latest games on this device, but if you're a Candy Crush lover or something similar like that, then fill your boots. Its performance is pretty decent though if you're only needing a handset to update your Facebook or Instagram with photos and stories. And the camera is more than capable for those quick snaps of your day or taking photos of the family at events. It doesn't feel as premium as some handsets, down to the use of plastic and housing, I think. And surprisingly, it didn't come with a case either. Even one of those thin, basic, transparent cases commonly found in retail boxes these days. It does come with a charger though, so brownie points there. But can I find the price for it here in the UK? No chance. Whatever I Google, I just can't find this phone at all. Now, what I can find, however, is that the price of $229 in the US, so that's a start. And it's extremely hard to argue that price tag if it's reflective of what's coming to the UK once it arrives. Thank you very much for checking out this video review of the TCL 40R 5G mobile. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, subscribe to keep up with our latest tech and gaming videos, and let us know down in the comments down below what you thought about the 40R 5G. Is it something that you would personally use if you were out after a mid-tier phone? Let us know in the comments below. As I say, thanks very much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.